it's like the old picture of Jim Ryan holding the PlayStation controller, and the way he's holding it, I don't remember how he's holding it, but, like, he's got, like, this really weird grip on it where it's like, "You've never held a PlayStation controller in your life, have you?" Like, you're the CEO of this company, and the way you're holding that controller, what are you doing? It's just so
Hello, Village Gamers, and welcome back to our weekly podcast. What can I say? Since we just became a YouTube partners, we decided to change the name of our podcast because apparently podcast is such yesterday has been named, and now we will welcome you to the weekly quest. So welcome to the weekly quest number one. We are very happy to welcome you to the usual decor. Basically we just changed the name, but we still have very exciting stories for you this week, and we're gonna start right away with Adam. What is your first story of the day?
EA came out and they said, "Hey, guess what? Sims 5? Not a thing. Everyone thought it was a thing. It's not a thing. It's not happening." And a lot of people got upset about that. We've been hearing rumors about Sims 5 for a really long time, Project Renee, and there was talk of some online multiplayer capabilities of it. And of course, people want an open world like Sims 3, which we haven't had in a really long time. We have neighborhoods now, but even the neighborhoods, it's like you can walk around and you can use some of the public stuff, but if you want to go into a building, you have to load the lot, so the lots are separated. It's a weird system. Also, you can't customize your towns like you used to. Back in Sims 2, you could import, I believe it was Sim City, the cities from Sim City, and you could use those as your format. In Sims 3, they had a downloadable kit that you could use to customize your world and build your own world. And then in Sims 5, we get these little towns or neighborhoods or whatever they're called. I don't really quite remember. Worlds. And it comes in and it has 8 lots on it, and 7 of the 8 are used up, and there's only one free lot to build, so you either have to just demolish stuff if you want, or you can't just build a world from scratch in the same way that you used to be able to. So, yeah, a lot of people were really looking forward to Sims 5 and hey, what kind of cool things can we do with it? And then of course we heard about Life by You and people got a little bit excited about that. That didn't pan out. Now we're hearing about 𝙎𝙬 and it looks like a lot of people are thinking about jumping ship and just saying, "Hey, you know what? We had that demo where we could build our characters in 𝙎𝙬. Maybe we'll just go there because EA is just dropping the ball." So instead, what EA has said is, "Hey, we have all this functionality that we're adding, multiplayer and some other stuff as well. Why not just add it to The Sims 4? Why not build The Sims 5?" And to a lot of people, that makes absolutely no sense because what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to just completely revamp the game, and that's just messy. That's just asking for bugs. Sometimes it's just better to start over and be like, "Hey, let's build it this way from the ground up, not try to repurpose something for something it's not originally designed to be." Because again, bugs. But the CEO, I believe EA, came out and he said this: we're not getting Sims 5, not in the sense that Sims 5 is a replacement for Sims 4. What this means is that we will continue to bring HD simulation experience and what people would want from a 5, but we're not going to start you over, reset your progress, and really feel like you're going to lose all that amazing play you put into 4. So basically, what he said was, people have been putting so much into Sims 4. We don't want you guys to lose progress. And to me, that is quite possibly the worst possible excuse because Sims is all about starting over. It's all about building that new family. It's all about building that new house. Yes, a lot of times you do play these generational families and you build over time and build over time and build over time. But you can build Sim 5 and Sim 4 can still exist. Guess what? We have Sims 4 and a lot of people play Sims 3. You know why? Because it still exists. It's not getting new packs and stuff, but it's still there. And so to me, the idea of, oh, we don't want people to have to start over in a Sims game is the most ridiculous thing. I'm sure there might be like 7 people out there that disagree with me, and feel free to add your comments. But I think most people think that's just a really weird excuse. And if you really wanted to do that, just create some sort of tool that you can port your families from Sims 4. We do this all the time where people import saves and stuff like that. Dragon Age does that, for example. So if you had your Dragon Age 2 save and Dragon Age Origins save, then when you played Dragon Age Inquisition, you could import those saves and it would update the story based on the decisions you had made in previous games. I'm trying to think of other games that have done that. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth strangely did not, but a lot of games do. The fact that they're not doing that is just really bizarre. And yeah, it just seems like like why what are you planning on doing on this? The other thing that they're talking about, other than adding multiplayer, which I don't know if that's a good idea or not, maybe it'll be cool, maybe not, I don't know, is they're going to be adding creator kits, which are user created, was it based on user generated content made by players. So if user kits sounds a lot like creation kit, or sorry, they're called creator kits. If creator kits sounds a lot like the creation kit from Fallout, yeah, it's the exact same idea. Let's take things that fans have built and let's sell those things. And the people who made them, sure, they maybe get a cut, but it's just nickel and diming. Come on. It's just like I know a lot of people don't like Sims 4. I do enjoy the game. I do. But I'm very picky about which things I buy. I don't own most of the packs because I don't feel obligated to buy one unless I'm like, that one is right up my alley. And it's a shame because when I played Sims 2, I was like, I am buying every single pack because there was always something worthwhile. But I feel like in Sims 4, the packs just feel so small. Like you get just a handful of things on each one. So instead, they'll just put out like 15 different packs and put them all across that. And I'm just, I am not thrilled with this news. I know a lot of other Sims people are not thrilled with this news. A lot of people are saying that they're shooting themselves in the foot. And it's, do you want me to go to Enzoy? Because I am totally on board with that. If that's what you want, I will respect your wishes and play another game. Yeah. So that's what's happening in the Sims world. So thoughts? I see Krian nodding his head throughout that speech. No. What are they doing? No.
I agree with you that people are gonna move to Enjoy because it's brand new, the graphics are great, and against that you have the Sims 4 with I think next month yet another DLC. So clearly they are trying to milk the existing cash cow, which is gonna die at some point. Poor cow, she's very thin now. Yeah, and you were talking about games with saves that you can in Mass Effect 10 years ago. But yeah, of course, you could
Yeah, that's another
input your
great
story
example.
from Mass Effect 1 to 2 to 3. So that's not a new mechanic. That's a very old mechanic that you can perfectly do. That's fine, especially that the Sims is basically a big Excel table as a file, so shouldn't be that complicated. I'm not a developer, I wouldn't know. But yeah, no, really weird choice. But I really like the comments, the excuse. It really makes me feel like the guy who never played his own game. I'm selling this game, I have no clue what it is about. It's not like
Yeah.
Skyrim, no?
Yeah, it
So
gives me a
people are not gonna
sense
just
of
lose her.
yeah, it's
No.
like that the old picture of Jim Ryan holding the PlayStation controller and the way he's holding it. I don't remember how he's holding it, but like he's got like this really weird grip on it where it's like you've never held a PlayStation controller in your life, have you? Like you're the CEO of this company and the way you're holding that controller, what are you doing? It's just so awkward. But that's how businesses are run, unfortunately, a lot of times. We need more Gavins in the world, people who are like, I love this thing. I built this out of a labor of love, but we need more of those Miyamotos and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, no,
Corinne, any
when
thoughts?
Adam broke this story online, so for those of you who don't know, right, like Adam, we always talk about stuff online, right, because we're passionate gamers. And I posted this on our Threads account, and we had 1,000 views of people who followed this story and were arguing one way or another. And so we had 1,000 views. We probably had about 45 comments. And you'd be surprised. Basically, 50% of people actually agreed with EA that we have so much stuff on The Sims 4 that we don't want to change. And I felt like that was crazy. This game it doesn't look bad, but it doesn't look good either from a graphical perspective. But people are like, yeah, no, we just want more functionality in The Sims 4 and want to keep our stuff and all the DLCs that we paid. And what did someone say? It was like almost $1,000 worth of DLC at this point if you bought everything at full price. So no, but I'm definitely in Adam's camp. I think this game needs an overall graphically, in terms of mechanically. I think of a good example of Path of Exile 2, which is coming out in November in early access, right? And they said, yes, we're going to support Path of Exile 2 and Path of Exile 1 simultaneously, both bringing updates to both games. And stuff from Game 1 and Game 2 will work together as well. Path of Exile is not the same size of EA, right? They're not a small company either. They're no longer an indie studio, but if they can do two games, right? One brand new, flashy, one old with lots of updates, EA should be able to do it, right? But maybe it comes down to costs. Who knows? But one thing I'm worried about with 𝙂𝙧 is just from the monetization perspective. I'm worried that Western game is going to flock to 𝙂𝙧 and they'll be like, hey, this is just, what is that Korean game, From Human or something like that, right? First Descendant, where people are
First
like, this is
Descendants?
awesome, but bam, like $20 for a skin and $10 for a gun skin. And people are like, yeah, and that's why it's like mixed reviews on Steam at the moment. I'm hoping the company behind 𝙂𝙧 is okay. At least they have a way to deal with all of that stuff because, well, I'll pay $10 for a skin or $20 for a skin because I've lived here for 15 years. I know most Western people probably are not going to want to do that.
I would pay 10
And you
Taiwan dollars for a skin. That's 3 cents US.
Not bad.
No,
And you can
that would
tell,
be
you know,
amazing. I would buy 100 skins.
and just to come back on the management of the company, I can imagine the guy who just look at Bethesda and say, let's take the worst things that Bethesda has done. The content create perfect. There's a lot of different opinion there. Yes, of course, modders should get paid for their work, but it really depends on which mods, right? Like some of them are really labor of love, as you said, with brand new quest lines and everything. Most mods are just a recorder of stuff with very few effort behind. Anyway, that's just one thing that people are always going to be split about. That's fine. And with all that said, we went a little bit over on this first story, which is great. So let's go straight to Kriyan's first story.
So if you're around on the internet in the last 7 days, you would have seen the Switch 2 has a new set of leaks. There's been a bit of argument and disagreement and stuff, but basically, we've saw these wonderful pictures. We've used them in our videos, like what the Switch 2 is going to look like. And it looks beautiful, it looks different, but apparently that's not what it's going to look like. The Switch 2, according to a leak from a Chinese factory, and a bunch of reporters verified, hey, this is the model number, and this model number matches what Nintendo has said, so this is the real thing. The Switch 2 is going to look exactly like the Switch 1. Same configurations for components, same placements of buttons. Of course, the only big difference is that the screen is going to be 8 inches as opposed to 7 inches. And then one thing I was confused about was that the controllers are supposed to be magnetic, like a new scheme, as opposed to where the Switch current scheme is like a slide-in and a locking mechanism on your Switch controller. So this is supposed to be different, but looking at the renders of the screenshot, this is the article that I'm referring to is one from Game Rant or somewhere like that. But basically everyone else had the same article, right? And I'm hoping there's going to be a different mechanism because the way the magnetic mechanism was described was like, this is going to be really cool. It's going to be strongly magnetized. It's not going to be a pain to take out your controllers as before. But looking at that, I'm not 100% sure. So one thing we do have confirmed is that it is 12 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM. So anyone who knows anything, right? All computers now, Antoine's computer uses DDR5. And I don't think Adam's does. So me and Adam still use DDR4, which is the old generation. So DDR5 is super fast. To give you an idea, like DDR4 tops out about 3200 when it's overclocked. DDR5 starts at 3200, can go all the way up to 9 gigahertz, which is like faster than your brain almost. So that is really cool when it comes to that sort of information. So it's got a fast SSD. Now the CPU, we have just a code name is GMLX30R-81. Of course, we don't have anything as clear as like this is an AMD processor, or this is an Intel processor, this is an NVIDIA processor. So the original Switch is an NVIDIA Tegra processor, which of course is 7 years old right now. But it runs well. My Switch is still going strong. It's still playing stuff, and I'll know on Thursday how Zelda runs. A game I talked about previously, the Plucky Square, is not running too well on the Tegra, but that's unfortunate. And the other thing to talk about as well is it's coming with dual cooling fans and a copper heatsink, again, which is pretty much standard for a computer these days. Most good heatsinks are copper-based. Dual fans are what the Asus ROG Ally has, the new one. This thing obviously is going to get hot. They've obviously, the engineers and Nintendo have said, yes, it's going to get hot, but we're going to do our best to keep it cool. I'm wondering how this is going to feel after playing it for an hour or 2 hours of gaming. And I guess the big thing that people were disappointed with looking at this leak is like, hey, this is supposed to be a Switch 2. Compare the PS4 to the PS5, right? It looks good. It looks different, right? Compare the Xbox 360 to the Xbox Series X or S, right? It looks different. But at the same time, I believe a week ago we saw the price leak of someone was saying, yes, this is still going to be $400 for a Switch 2. And if Nintendo can pull this off, that is impressive because there is no console that can do what the Switch 2 does at the $400 price point. None, because it's too expensive. So one way I can see this happening is just don't change the design, don't make it look super different, don't come out with crazy colors, and keep it very. And then you've saved money, right? There, people can still use the old molds in the factory to produce controllers, to produce the Switch. You're just getting a bigger LCD panel, right? Because we know there's still a debate about whether it's LCD or LED. So it's interesting. I'm a bit worried about if it is the same design, that there's going to be some bad reception to it. That being said, Nintendo fans are Nintendo fans. They're still going to buy it no matter what. This is going to be my purchase next year because it is only coming out next year. April is what we're told. Fingers crossed that it does come out then and not just like December of 2025, which would be super late. But yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys think about this. I know Adam's not a big speculator, so I'm looking forward to some bringing my thoughts back down to earth. What do you guys think?
Yeah, so I want to go first.
Okay, first of all, if you have a similar design, that means you can reuse your Switch 1 dock, which would be some kind of retro compatibility. Oh my god, sorry, which would be great. I trust the marketing at Nintendo to make it look similar. I have this little touch to say that's not the same console because it's Nintendo we're talking about. They're extremely good at marketing, so they will have a plan for that, even if it looks. I'm looking at the screen. That's much bigger at 8 inches. That's nice. Aren't you afraid that it's going to fall on your face and break the screen? Apart from that, no. Yes, just on the subject of leak, Nintendo really need to be careful of the leaks. I don't know if you saw, but like Tears of the Kingdom got leaked a week before it was released officially. Same this week on Zelda. The ROM of Zelda came out a week before the official release. Nintendo really need to rein in these leaks. But apart from that, yeah, that's it for me.
Yeah, for me, just looking at it, I'm assuming these are the same leaks that are on Reddit, so I just real quickly downloaded the pictures and posted it. The screen itself looking good. What gets me is the Joy-Cons look a little odd. They're a lot bigger, and the right and left Joy-Cons are not uh they're not normal. They're not equal in the way. For instance, if you're using the left Joy-Con, your analog stick is on the left and your buttons are in the middle. But if you're using the right Joy-Con, your analog stick is in the middle and your buttons are on the right. So depending on if you want to play like two-player games like Mario Kart and everybody get two people take a Joy-Con, your hands are actually holding them differently depending on whether you're using the right or left one. But they have this new trigger on the back, and it's weird because the trigger is actually it's not on the top, it's facing inside. So I mean, you'd have to curl your finger around. So I'm assuming they still have 1 and 2 on top. So I'm assuming you're not supposed to use that one in the regular because otherwise you'd have to curl your finger all it's in a really weird position. So I'm assuming that's only there for if you're using it in the horizontal configuration. But then again, if you're using that, depending on if you're using the right or the left, you're pressing that trigger with either your right hand or your left hand. So depending on which side you're using as a controller, you actually have different controls. So for me, I'm like, that's a really odd design choice to make it that depending on which one you're using, you're actually having a different control scheme based on whether you're using the right. If I'm always playing on the left and my brother's always playing on the right, and then I play my friend and he always plays on the left and his brother plays on the right. So now we're both used to playing on the left, but one of us is going to have to play with the right. It's going to be an awkward thing. I don't know how often people do that. I don't know how often people will dispense out the different controllers to different people. I'm assuming that's actually not super common because I'm assuming when people usually play games like Mario Kart, most of the time it's probably online or they're probably using like a Switch Pro controller and somebody else is using the two Joy-Cons put together or something. But yeah, for me it's an odd design choice and I'm really curious to see how well that's going to be received and or utilized. So but yeah, otherwise, yeah, for bang for your buck, yeah, definitely a good deal. And if it's backwards compatible, I might finally be like, hey, you know what? This is a good reason for me to get a launch Switch too, because I never had a Switch, and now I get to play all the new games, and I have this instant library available to me. I have to buy the games, obviously, but I suddenly gain access to a bunch of games that I didn't have access to previously. So, yeah, no, I'm excited about it. A little confused, but looking forward to seeing where this goes.
And I'm gonna finish this first round with my first story, and we're gonna talk about Palworld. So it's yes, surprising and not, because we were all expecting Nintendo to sue Palworld, and at the same time, there's like how many mobile game or like cheap Pokemon you have on your phone or something. Why Palworld more than others? Because it's like we saw like last week or 2 weeks ago, because Palworld is in the top 5 of the most earned of 2024, and they are making a lot of business. Of course, Palworld is not just Pokemon because they have this base building mechanics that Pokemon doesn't have, but in the principle of capturing creature and everything, yes, it's clearly a knockoff of Pokemon. So why Nintendo waited all this time to sue them, to sue Pocketpair, is a wonder. Let's put it here. I'm not a lawyer, right? I'm a gamer like all of you. My understanding is that if Nintendo went and sued Pocketpair on the look of the monsters alone, they were not sure to win, basically. And from what I understand, if Nintendo starts suing right now, it's because they are sure to win. What they are suing for, though, is nothing to do with the look of the Pokemon, from what I get. It's because of patent.
Oh,
So yes, patent infringement. Apparently, so the lawyers, let me just get it straight. It's Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have filed a patent infringement lawsuit against Palworld developer Pocketpair, and there is no public confirmation on the specifics of this suit, which means that at this time we are just like guessing what patents are infringed. There's more than one, but the one which are more than likely to be part of this suit is a patent on the throwing of the Pokeballs, basically. Before Arceus, because you have to make sure to differentiate the old Pokemon, which was 2D turn by turn, where you don't actually see the trainers throw Pokeball, and with the latest one, Arceus or the Shield and Sword, where you are on the open world and you actually see the trainer takes his Pokeball, throw, captures the animal, and after takes the ball and gets the creature out of the ball. This is what the patent is for. And the Pal Sphere is almost exactly the same, even though the animation might be slightly different. That's more than likely one of the patents which is being attacked there. We'll see what the future looks like for Pocketpair, because remember we talked about it last. They are planning a full release, right? PS5 early 2025. That could affect plan, because if they lose the lawsuit, there's several things at play here. First of all, there's going to be a big fine to be paid to Nintendo. They will need to revamp the system, and most of the Palworld system is based on capturing the pals. If they lose the system of throwing Palsphere, it means they have to create a brand new system. That's going to be a pain, right? It means more development. No way that this early access is going to be ever released properly. Or Nintendo might just require to get this game just simply cancelled and removed from Steam. So we'll see what the judgment is. To be a bit specific on the patent that I was talking about, they started it in 2021, just a month before the release of Arceus, and it was granted in Japan in December 2023, just a month before the release of Palworld. And in the US, it's still under review, but we don't really care about this because both companies are Japanese, Pocketpair and Nintendo. So that's where it's gonna work. So at this time, it's a big question mark for what's gonna happen to Palworld. Of course, the developers of Palworld answered Nintendo saying, "What? We did? Really? Are you sure? We're not aware of that. We're gonna take a look at this," and said they would be diverting workforce to work on this file. And Pocketpair is not a big company, right? So diverting manpower to this means they have less time to work on some other stuff. All in all, it's a really bad news for Pocketpair and for Palworld. So we'll see development. What do you guys think is going to happen for poor Palworld, which at this time has a really fantastic trajectory, and we are all very excited to see the finished product on console and PC.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if they add some story to it. Currently, there's no story or dialogue. I'd like to see even just a basic. They do have, you can pick up some little notes and stuff throughout the world, but I would like to see some kind of actual quests, that sort of thing added to the game. Give yourself some reason to actually do some of the things you do and go some of the places you go, as it is completely sandbox. But yeah, I think it's skeezy to go through and then have a system. And okay, yeah, the Pokemon did invent the system of the Pokeball. You throw it, you catch it, that sort of thing. They did invent the fact that it's a ball, but when you think about it, and so in that sense, if they had patented it at the time, I probably back in 1997 or whatever, I would have been like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. It's a mechanic for catching monsters. Other games have collecting monsters around the same time. I think they probably came out a little bit later. I think Jade Cocoon was a little bit later. Legend of Legaia was came out around probably the same time. I think it was maybe a little bit later. Um, Monster Rancher came around the same time. Digimon came around the same time, and they all have different mechanics. They all do it differently. Digimon, is more like a Tamagotchi. Monster Rancher come from the discs, so you summon them basically. Jade Cocoon, you captured them. I'm not quite sure how. Legend of Legaia, you would basically have your Suru, your Rasuru would consume them in a sense. They didn't eat them, but they would absorb their power into them. The Pokeball mechanic was definitely a very Pokemon thing, but when you think about it in a sense, they didn't even invented it, because you go back even further. Ghostbusters had a very similar mechanic, right? You set out a trap. Theirs is a box, but you send out a trap and you capture the ghost, right? And then later on in the cartoons and stuff, you could throw it out there and open it up and the ghost could come out. In a sense, the Pokeball itself is very distinctly Nintendo, but the concept is a very general one of a trap and a thrown trap, which I think a throwing trap is not an entirely new concept. Just very specificity of a Pokeball is. But at the same time, so I think if they had patented it back then, they'd have a case. But the fact that they went back and patented it after Pal World came out, I think it was, oh, we have this idea. And that just to me sounds sketchy, to be able to retroactively patent something and then go after somebody else for using it. If that is what it is, they haven't confirmed what patent it is. And that was very telling when it immediately came out. A lot of people, myself included, jumped on the fact that, hey, they're suing for patent infringement, not copyright infringement, which is what everybody was expecting. What are they patenting here? So I do think that's a very kind of sketchy thing. And I do think that's very dangerous for the gaming industry as a whole. Like we were talking about, like the Nemesis system and how that got patented, and a lot of people loved the Nemesis system, and now nobody can use it because, or you'd have to find some way around it, make it work. And it's just, I think it's really sketchy, and I think it's actually really detrimental to the gaming industry, because it doesn't, gaming is an evolutionary thing. You're standing on the shoulders of giants and then building on that. And it's always about the community and about collaboration and about trying to find better ways to do things. That's why Power World got so popular. It was Pokemon with guns, right? You're taking this idea and you're building on it and coming up with something creative and new and exciting. If you're having to go back and reinvent the wheel every time because somebody patented the old wheel, and now you have to start over and come up with completely new mechanics, I don't think that's good for gaming. I don't think that's good for any kind of industry. Like, it'd be like if, I don't know, Ford or somebody came along and patented the steering wheel, and they're like, okay, nobody can use steering wheels from now on. All the other cars are going to have to find some other way to control themselves. They have to use joysticks or something. That would not be good for the automobile industry at all. That would be horrible. And I think this is very similar to that. The fact that they can go back retroactively and do it. Had they done it from the beginning, had whoever the first car makers were patented the steering wheel and everyone else had to find other ways to do it and get around it, it wouldn't be a problem, because we wouldn't be using steering wheels, right? We'd be using some other method that was more universally accepted. That's the whole idea with Tesla or Gogoro here in Taiwan, right? Creating batteries that, we don't want only our brand to use it. We want everybody's brand to use our batteries, right? That's good for us. That's good for the industry as a whole. But then we can focus on not building cars, or we can focus on not building scooters. We can just focus on building batteries and then let other people design scooters. And I think that's a great thing. So yeah, I'm really hoping that this does not go through and Nintendo does not win a patent like this, because I don't think it's going to be good. And it's just going to, if it does work, it's just going to encourage other companies to go through and be like, hey, what can we patent? What ideas did we come up with that we can cash in on and make sure other people can't do it? And I think it's just going to become like the wild west of, if Nintendo wins, I think it's going to become the wild west of people trying to get these patents, and not only just because they want to make money off of it, but I think a lot of people too are just going to do it to cover their own ass. They're going to be like, I don't want to get sued down the line. I better patent this thing now to get rid of, to make sure that somebody in the future isn't suing me for using this mechanic. But yeah, that said, if Pocketpair needs a new idea, I know it would create an entire overhaul of the game, but you know what? Nobody's using net launchers as a mechanic for capturing monsters. Why don't we just get net launchers, right? We use those on criminals all the time. I think that would be a fun way to do it. Get this little net launcher, shoot out a net, catch things. Go ahead and use that mechanic. I'm not going to copyright it. If worst comes to worst, there are ways around it where your game can still work without the ball mechanic. But yeah.
Yeah, so just change the asset basically would solve the problem.
Yeah, just change the way it looks.
Krian, any thoughts about this? No, good. Oh, good. No, I agree with you. And just to confirm with you, indeed, they got the patent in December 2023, so before PAL was released. So they had all the time in the world, released in January
I heard
2024.
that they applied after it released.
No, they applied to this specific patent, right? That was a month before Arceus came out to patent this, like for their first open world Pokemon. So it was in 2021 that they applied for it, and they got it approved in 2023, and US still pending. But still, they could have sued them right away when it came out, but they waited. So I don't know if there's legal time to build a case or something. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so if you're a lawyer on gaming industry and you want to explain this to us, you are very welcome to come to the weekly quest. We are very happy to invite you. But at this time, we're just going to make supposition. And if you have any good supposition, or if you don't want to come to the show because it's a bit, you're in Europe and it's too late for you, put it in the comment. We'll be happy to review that with you. So
yeah,
that's it for the first round.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say that I think the reason they didn't sue is simply because they were like, these companies, they'll sit on it until they like feel like they're guaranteed to win. So I think at this point, Nintendo is very confident that they're going to win, and that's why they don't want to risk it unless they're very confident. So I think Nintendo is actually very confident, which is worrying to me. But
yeah, I agree, and of course we'll follow that. It's a lawsuit, so it's not gonna be solved in a month or two. It takes usually at least a year or more for this. So we are finished with the first round, and we're joining a bit late. Adam, what's your second story?
So my second story, a lot of people are wondering, hey, you know what? We love PlayStation, but what should I play? What are some games that are hidden gems on this system that I've never had the opportunity to play? And I am here to answer that question. And it is Freedom Wars. And if you haven't heard of it, that's why it is a hidden gem, because you haven't heard of it. Freedom Wars is a fantastic game. Came out in 2014 on the PlayStation Vita. And currently, that is actually the only place you can play it. But not for long, because this January, we are getting the Freedom Wars remaster. And I am so looking forward to this. This is one game that I am 100% going to be double dipping on. It is a great game if you're the kind of person who likes these Monster Hunter clones, as they are often referred to. And what's more is, when the game first came out in 2014, as I said, it came out on the PlayStation Vita. It was published by Sony. It was made by, I can't remember the name of the company, but it was published by Sony. But this time it's being published by Bandai Namco, which is actually a little bit worrying, because Bandai Namco have a bad habit in the last few years of not doing good decisions. But ignoring that, it means that the game is not only going to be on PlayStation, it is also coming to Steam, and it is also coming to the Nintendo Switch. So if you are on the Switch, this is another great game that you are going to be able to play. But we're talking about PlayStation today. So the reason I love this game is it's just a really interesting concept. Basically, you are in the future at an unknown time, and resources across the earth are very scarce. So because of that, even being born is a crime. It is a crime to be born in this world. And upon being born, you are immediately sentenced with 1 million years of prison time. But don't worry, because what you can do is you can work off your sentence. So what happens is people are born into what's called a panopticon. And if you need to look it up, feel free to do that. But a panopticon is basically a prison design where you have a tower or something in the middle and all the prison cells are around it. So at any given point, you're never sure when you are and when you are not being observed. You can be observed at any point. And so the idea is because there's always that potential to be observed, people are going to behave themselves whether they're actually being observed or not. That way you can have a minimal number of guards guarding over a maximum number of inmates, because again, you never know when you are the focus of attention. A lot of countries these days are referred to as panopticons. Sometimes I'm not going to name names, just to the west of us. Anyway, so because of this, you work off your sentence and you are granted certain liberties to be allowed to do this. One thing that you get is called a thorn. It's basically this big thing on your arm. It's like a big vine looking thing. It's big and spiky. There are 3 different kinds. You have your attack thorn, you have your healing thorn, and your support thorn. Support thorns will shield people. The healing thorns obviously heal people. And the attack thorns can be used as traps. People are seen as a resource, especially people who have contributed enough to society that they've worked off their sentence, basically meaning that instead of being a net negative to society because you're consuming resources, you are now a net positive to society because you are contributing more than you are siphoning off of the system. So citizens are extremely important. A lot of missions are going to be rescue missions where you are rescuing citizens. Other panopticons are trying to capture your citizens because they are worthwhile individuals, and having citizens will benefit you more than will benefit you more. So they have these giant robots. They're called abductors. They capture people. They store them inside. They look like these big kind of mech things, and that's where the monster hunter elements come in. You fight these giant things. You can use your thorn as a grappling hook to get around the level. You can Spider-Man wherever you want or grab onto an abductor. You can cut off the limbs of abductors. You can get it at the shoulder and cut an arm off, and all that. Super exciting. When you at the end of a mission, you get resources. So if you cut off the arm of an abductor, those are resources, and you can either contribute those resources and give them to your panopticon to lower your sentence because you are contributing resources to society, or you can keep them for yourself and use them to upgrade your gear so that in the future you'll be better at gathering resources. They also have a pawn system, which is really exciting. That's kind of one of the things that got me into it. For friends of Dragon's Dogma, you have your pawn, you design your pawn, and they help you out. In this one, they're called accessories, and they're basically androids, so you can customize your accessory and have them support you as necessary. And yeah, and then like Monster Hunter, it's multiplayer, so you can go online, play with other people. I believe it says up to 8 people online. I never played online on the PlayStation Vita because not that many people were online. There were dedicated communities, but unless you were part of those communities, you didn't know when they were meeting or whatnot. So I never really got to play online. But hopefully now that it's getting a remaster, and hopefully the fact that it's going to be released on PS4, PS5, Switch, and Steam, I'm really hoping we get crossplay because that would really be a huge boon to online play. So I am really excited about this game. You can probably tell because I'm talking a mile a minute and I got this huge grin on my face, but super excited. Coming out January 10th in the West. I believe it's January 9th in Japan, January 10th everywhere else. So looking forward to it. If you're looking for a hidden gem on the PlayStation, this is definitely one to check out.
And as you heard, he said this game has element of Monster Hunter and Dragon's Dogma and never got patent sued.
And
on
never a
these two
patent
elements.
sued. Yeah, exactly.
Well done, Nintendo. All right, let's go straight to Korean Sound Story.
But yeah, any thoughts?
Or first,
comments?
I would go on thoughts, but you were very excited about this game, and to be honest, I absolutely don't know about anything about it. Maybe
Fair
you
enough.
do, Korean? Did you have a Vita? Because that's a very, I don't want to say an obscure console, but that's an obscure console. I don't know many people who had a PS Vita, to be honest.
The only PlayStation device I've ever had for 6 months was a PSP. And that was the first time I played God of War. But now there's so many titles, not just in PlayStation, but so many different libraries. Sony, PlayStation, PC. They have so many unique mechanics. There was another game that I saw on somebody's list that They were like, hey, this has this awesome mechanic. Why have people not ever done this again? And Adam's talked about this on our Instagram shorts. Hey, this game does this thing. Why have we never seen it over the last 20 years? When Adam mentioned the story, I'm like, I watched a trailer. I'm like, oh, cool. I want to play this. So that's my only thought, is just there's a wealth of gaming mechanics that we never get to see. And I hope the gaming companies and the powers that be let us actually play these games.
And so my PS5 story was on one of the most anticipated game of 2025, and certainly one of the most complicated, because Hideo Kojima make me scratch my head all the time. My God, it's complicated. And it is Death Stranding 2, which we got a trailer at the beginning of the year in one of the convention, and 10-minute trailer, 10 minutes, you have the time to release a lot of elements of the story, and then I had to look at it twice and read so many theories and stuff. But yes, so as I said, that's a Kojima game coming out from Kojima Productions, which is his own company. Coming out in 2025, we don't know exactly when yet, but that's going to be, of course, an exclusive to PS5, or at least it should be, and it will run on an engine called Decima. And I don't know this engine, but as we know from Death Stranding 1, it is it's really a beautiful game. Complicated too. I'm going to go back and refer a lot to this 10-minute trailer. You will go back, if you play Death Stranding 1, you will get back your central characters. Norman Reedus as Sam Bridges, Fragile, which I believe is the French actress Léa Seydoux, and Higgs, which is Troy Baker. I didn't know Troy Baker, but after this little trailer, no, I love him. So if you go back, let's try to resume what we know a little bit, and I will let you speculate and give your theory in the comments, right? But at least what I think that we know about Death Stranding 2, what's going to happen, right? Sam and Fragile raising Lou together. Lou, or Louise, is the baby, 28 or something, the little baby that Sam, I want to say Norman, but Sam carries the whole game in Death Stranding 1. They are raising Lou together. Once Sam is away for some business I can't recall, Fragile gets attacked in the bunker and she tries to escape, and in the end, Lou gets killed 12 times. Fragile, which by the way has been cured. I recall that she had some kind of skin disease in the first game. She has been cured. I don't know if there's an explanation for that, but I'm sure that we will get one. Adam says, yes, I'm going to let you fill in the blanks because I'm swimming a bit there. And Lou, and this is where Kojima is losing me a bit, but Lou, who has been killed, is coming back as a BT, which is a beach thing. And by the way, the name of this second game is On the Beach, I believe. Death Stranding 2 On the Beach. So Lou emerges as a BT and go back to his old baby pod. So that's the reason why you will see Sam with his old pod on the stomach. That's the reason. As you recall, in the first game, so Sam's job was to extend the network across all the new Americas, the UCA. I can't recall what the UCA was, United something of America. Anyway, and because of this, now humans literally don't need to walk anywhere. Androids are the new human porters. So the whole network is covered by bots, and they handle deliveries. So Sam is not really needed anymore. So after that, Fragile closed Fragile Express. That was a company working under, I believe, the UCA. And she created a new company called Drawbridge to do exactly the same, basically handle work, handle the network, extending the network, but outside the UCA. So I believe they talk maybe about Mexico in this game. Or
I think they talk about Canada too.
Or maybe Canada, that'd be fun. Anyway, some other places which are not connected by the network. And it's a pure civilian outfit this time, related to the UCA. However, we know that it's financed by a mysterious sponsor, which is hinted or very likely to be a big shot in the UCA. Some people talked about the Hartman guy. Adam can tell you about this. Deadman? They have weird names in this game. That's terrible. Yeah. Yes. So in this game, you We'll see how it works, but it doesn't look like you're moving from bases to bases like in the first game. Rather than you move in this big flying spaceship, it really look like a cool ship called the 𝙃𝙎𝙪𝙥𝙥𝙩 Magellan. And that's so basically a mobile base of operation, which is used to travel through the beach and reach different regions and places around the US or the North American continent. It's at this stage that Sam is recruited. A bit of confusion there as well. You can throw a theory, but when you get Sam, it looks like he has gray hair, he's quite old, and all of a sudden he's rejuvenated and get younger. We'll see what's your theory on this, because I have no idea how it works. They have some kind of miracle medicine in this kind of game. Why not? And also, and it's really fun, but it doesn't make sense for me. He's taking a little puppet, this big 𝙂𝙖𝙢𝙚𝙧𝙩 puppet, which is really cool. I don't know how it works, but I really like the concept that he attached to his leg, and is gonna be your annoying companion for when you start connecting regions. And the game starts getting complicated when Higgs. So honestly, I can't remember. I saw Adam actually playing Death Stranding. It's just I can't remember who Higgs was, but clearly he died and came back from the beach, and he's carried around in style in a coffin by his droids, which I find it pretty cool. And it's even cooler the fact that he has some kind of weaponized guitar who shoot lightning like he's a noise marine from Warhammer. It's pretty cool, and you can use it as a axe/sword as well. That's great. That looks nice. In this whole intro, so Sam is captured. That's the scene of the trailer where Sam is captured by Higgs, and he's saved by an android, which I don't know, giggle like a kid. So that's where I saw some people saying this droid is Lou. So the baby BB stuff makes no sense, but fair enough. So you have this big android, samurai android fighting with this guy with an electric guitar. I'm all for it. That's fantastic. It makes no sense, and there he drops the thing like Sam wants to know who killed Lou, right? And Higgs saying, wow, you still don't know that? My God, you're so in the dark, basically. And so he's being saved. And so that's where Sam and Fragile are gonna start looking for information, because the kids they were raising has been killed. So of course I would be curious in that place. And that's basically where I left after Sam, during his travel, find a chrysalis with the character of Elle Fanning, which in the trailer you see her with really weird white black tar or threads coming out of her body, like she's levitating, like she's in need of an exorcism. Again, really weird, but that's connected to the beach or something like this. Maybe you can tell me more about this. And yes, so I don't know how she's gonna fit into this story, but again, I saw some theories that she could be a grown-up Lou, so the kid who has been killed at the beginning, or she could be a BT of the daughter of Sam, who apparently was killed around this age. So a lot of theories going around. I want to see yours because I don't get the lore and I like the lore. So please make me understand. Basically, that's what I'm saying. So Alan, do you have anything to add to this? Really surprising, but
yes, yeah. If she is a BT of his daughter Lou, I'm pretty sure his original daughter was named Lou, and that's why he named the baby Lou, was after his daughter. So it could be both. But yeah, Lou is not a BT. Lou was a BB. A BT, a beached thing, or those like ghostly things. Yeah, but I didn't realize that Lou had died. I thought Lou had been captured. Maybe I misunderstood, but maybe she did die. But yeah, the thing with the aging is in the first game you have what's called time fall. There's these things called chiral crystals, which are in the atmosphere, and they get into the rain. And if the rain touches you, it causes time to pass extremely quickly. Fragile was basically given an ultimatum where she could allow a city to be nuked, or she could stop the nuke. But in order to do it, she would have to run through the rain. So they covered her face with a bag, and she had to run through the rain, and her body aged, but her head did not. So that was what her skin condition was. Basically, her body was that of an 80-year-old woman, while her face was her actual age. So they've clearly found a way to cure that. As to why Sam is older, who knows? Maybe they found a cure for aging in general, and maybe this is just way in the future. I was of the impression that Elle Fanning was Lou, and that Lou had been captured or kidnapped, and that she was Lou from years and years later. But I may be wrong there. That was just my theory from the very first trailer that we saw. But yeah, super excited about this. What was it? The UCA is the United Cities of America, because of the beaching or the events. I don't remember what they called it off the top of my head, but because of that, basically and that's part of the reason why you need to connect. Everybody's living in these little pockets of humanity. So we don't have states as a whole, right? You have a city here and then it's just nothing until the next city. So they're the United Cities, not the United States anymore. But yeah, I'm super, super jazzed for Death Stranding 2. I loved the first one. It was so good. It was a walking simulator in a lot of ways, but that walking was very purposeful. And so for me, it was just really great. Super hyped for Death Stranding 2. And as far as exclusivity, it should be on PC at some point. The original one came to PC, so I would 100% expect this to show up on PC at some point. Oh, and you were talking about the Decima engine. That is actually the Horizon Forbidden West Horizon Zero Dawn engine made by Guerrilla Games. So when Sony made Death Stranding 2, that was part of the deal. Is they were like, "Hey, Kojima, do you need because he'd used the Fox engine prior to that, and they're like, we have this beautiful engine here. Would you like to use it?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try it out." To my knowledge, the only games that currently use it are the Horizon games and Death Stranding. There might be a few others, but a very good engine. But yeah, definitely looking forward.
Adam, he's always so well informed. That's really cool. Fantastic. Then I'm going to do my question, which is what games has the best introduction? So for me, that's a memory of childhood, really. When I got my Final Fantasy VIII and got to put it on the PlayStation, and then you had this big intro scene going over the sea, and the time I'm like, oh my God, that's the best picture I ever seen. Oh my God, you can never do better than that. With a fight between Squall and Cypher, like shooting each other across the face with the sword. And for me, oh my God, I'm gonna love this game so much. Look at this intro. How can that be a bad game? And indeed, it was a fantastic game. So yeah, best intro ever for me as a kid.
I will contend. I am not a fan of Final Fantasy VIII, but it does have
As
one of the better
intros.
intros, and it definitely has one of the better soundtracks of all the Final Fantasies.
Oh, that was cool as well, yeah. Do you need to know the other two questions?
I'll
You
answer
have
one.
what's a real life skill that you learned from a video game, or a much easier one, what's a game in your backlog that you know that you will never play, and why?
Yeah, I'll go with the backlog one. Actually,
Of
I don't
course.
know. Which one sounds more interesting to you, Korean? Which one would you rather hear my answer for?
Oh God, both those are pretty awesome. Let's go with the real life skill one.
Okay, so playing through games, I don't acquire too many skills, but this is a very specific skill. Back in the day, I played a lot of Mario Kart 64 on the Nintendo 64. And then one day came here to Taiwan and we did like a weekend thing and we were like, oh, hey, one of the secretaries, her uncle owns like a go-karting track. So we went to the go-karting track and we're going around it. And it's not like a circle, it's like a whole track thing. It's got lots of loops and stuff. And I was sitting there thinking, like, I remember playing a lot of Mario Kart 64. I wonder if I can drift. And I was like, how did I do this in Mario 64? You let off the gas again, and then you slam the gas so the wheels will spin a bit, and then you slide a bit, and you get into it. And I tried it, and it worked. I could actually get a little bit of a drift in it and corner those things. Thank you, Mario Kart 64, for teaching me how to drift in an actual go-kart, because that was actually a lot of fun. I'd really love to go back sometime and try it again. But yeah, learning how to drift in a go-kart was something that Mario Kart 64 actually, I don't know if it taught me, but it definitely prepared me for it.
Pretty cool answer, actually.
Yeah.
Thanks again for watching us as usual every week. We'll see you next week for the weekly. I forgot the name of the show already. It's terrible. For weekly quest
Weekly
number
Quest.
2 next week. Exactly. It's brand new. It needs to imprint in my mind. Don't worry. In 4 years it will. And so of course, if you like this show, please subscribe, share, do your stuff. You're fantastic. So thank you very much for helping us, and we'll see you next week.